Former President Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 felony counts in his hush money trial. Joining us right now is Mike Allen. He's the co-founder of Axios. And Mike, I know it's a little soon to try and figure out how this is going to impact the election, but you say that there's a real sense of change here in the mood of the nation, potentially even the fabric of politics in this nation. You want to explain?
No question, Becky. Two things. First, at the top of the show, you reported that mega donors weren't going to leave Trump. I can go further than that, Becky, based on my conversations this morning. I can tell you the campaign expects more mega donors to come to Trump. From the Trump campaign, everything we're hearing last night, this morning, defiance. So Don Jr. is angry, but most of the people around the president are defiant. And that's what I would look for when he talks this morning at Trump Tower at 11 a.m. From the Biden campaign, what we're hearing is we can't depend on this. They know that over many, many years now, former President Trump has been impervious to developments that would kill any other politician. And so, Becky, what the Biden campaign is saying, we can't depend on this to move even independent voters, even swing voters. What you're going to hear from the Biden campaign is continuing to focus on what Trump would do as president, what the stakes are for 2025, not yesterday in a Manhattan courtroom.
Your column this morning, though, is headlined "The Right Plots Revenge," and I wonder what this means in terms of of how politics have potentially changed with this.
Becky, it's alarming. There's no way to sugarcoat it. You look at what both sides are saying, and from the Republicans, the people have spoken, the people of New York have spoken, the jury has spoken. There's none of that. It's rigged. He's being jammed. He's being hunted. And they're going to play that up because they think it helps them both with voters and donors. And that does nothing to bring down the temperature. To the contrary, Becky, we have reporting from the Axios Capitol Hill team. We have members in both parties telling Axios that they're concerned about political violence. And we heard this in the days after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. You've heard it pop up with different legal developments with Trump, but it's back. And Becky, you, Andrew, Joe, your behind the scenes conversations with officials who've worked with and in U.S. intelligence, you're hearing it too. It's one of their biggest concerns about national security is how the country is going to handle the disruptive months ahead. So people always ask about the October surprise. Becky, I would look for a June surprise, a July surprise, August surprise. We have nothing but disruption ahead.
Mike, you said that the defiance and that there's no acceptance that the people of New York have spoken or something. Do you not think, and that they're going to use that, do you not think that there is some validity to that argument that you had Alvin Bragg, who ran on getting Donald Trump? He's a Democrat. He's only in New York. You had the jury selection from a county where Trump lost by 85 percentage points. You don't think there's anything to that? I'm worried that this sets and you can read the Wall Street Journal. They're not total loons. I know it's Rupert Murdoch, blah, blah, blah. But you read the editorial there. You don't think that a reasonable person could say this sets a bad precedent to knock out your political opponent using the justice system?
What for sure legal experts will tell you was that of the four cases, like this was the least convincing, which, given the swiftness of this verdict, doesn't bode very well for the Trump legal team on some of these other cases. But yeah, what you just said, that's a preview of what we're going to be hearing out of Trump Tower today. That's a preview of what we're going to be hearing between now and July 11th, when former President Trump is sentenced. And that's why Becky talks at the top about the fabric of the country. Like, that's the concern, that during these weeks, months, like the debate at a time when the country has threats from outside, threats from inside,
Right,
Like
but
the
you're not
debate
just
is not
hearing
going to
it,
be
Mike.
about the future. It's going to be about what's been done in these cases.
You're not just hearing it out of Trump Tower. You're hearing it from, I read an Elon Musk quote. There's reasonable people that are horrified about how this
You thought
happened.
Elon Musk was the most unreasonable person in the world recently.
That hasn't been recent, Mike.
Well,
but I don't see. I mean, I'm talking to Mike, and you're talking about how I feel about Elon Musk. Can you, Mike? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just Elon Musk. There's dozens of people, well-respected people, that are horrified by what happened yesterday. You don't see that, or you just think that the people of New York have spoken and he had a fair jury
question,
trial?
Joe, that's not what I said. And from the top, I said that many legal experts will tell you that this was that this was the least convincing of the cases. What I'm doing is looking down the road, looking at how the next week, months are going to unfold for this country. Think about what's going to happen in November, December, January, regardless of the outcome. Like, that's what you have to worry about.